Not letting to start with cold.
Okay. It is 6 o'clock, and it's time for the Toltec School District number 22 Governing Board meeting, and our regular meeting. At first, I wanted to see who I could pick to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I was trying to remember who I had do it last time, but I guess I will have. Bill, could you go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance for me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then, okay, we can have Mr. Craig. Could you read that up there to us?
Yeah, I am a treasurer.
As an adult and a treasure hunter, I am committed to search for all the talents and skills and intelligence that exist in all children and youth. I believe all children are capable of success, no exceptions.
All right, a moment of silence. Okay, very good. if you would help me out here now. With the roll call, will I get my computer running again?
Mark Lindgren,
Here.
Steve Cartwright,
Here.
Tim Kaysen,
Here.
Bill Doherty.
Here.
James Gray,
Here.
all present.
Very good, thank you. And then we have the approval of the agenda, D.
And I would like to request that we remove action item B. We're currently assessing the situation with that contract, so we'd just like to remove it until a different meeting, different time.
All right, does anybody have any questions about that? We've had this tower, I think Tim can talk about it just for a minute, just to let them know, because I don't know if everybody knows anything about the tower and what we've been doing.
Sure, we have the American Tower on our facility, or over on the Toltec campus over here. And I'm not sure off the top of my head what year we got that tower put in, but it has been there for quite some time. And we get a lease payment of $1,100 a month. And they offered to buy out that contract for $66,000 with the viewpoint that they don't have a tenant on it. And the term of that contract was that if they couldn't find a tenant within 5 years after us taking that $66,000, they would remove the tower from our premises and return the property to us. Do you want me to speak to why we took the item off the agenda?
Just real.
Okay, real briefly, we have, I guess, evidence that there may be a tenant willing to come onto the tower. And so we're not really sure if we really want to go through with the contract after all. So
that is. Yeah, that's it. So anyway, I need a motion for the approval of the agenda minus the American Tower contract in the action items. Can I have a motion for that?
I so move.
Can I have a second?
I would second.
All right, we have Mr. Dowdery made a motion, and Mr. Kaysen seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All against? Motion passed. Now we need the approval of the action consent items. If everybody's in approval of that, if I can get anybody have anything to say on that? Are we good? All right, everybody looks like they're shaking their head. Yes, we're good on that one. So I also need a motion on that in a second.
I move that we approve the action.
All right, so we have a motion made, and do we have a second?
Mr. Gray.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Gray seconded. Okay, so we have Mr. Courtwright and Mr. Gray seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Oops. All against, I'm sorry. I'm jumping again. None? Okay, motion passes. Now we're going to move to the superintendent's summary.
President's Day is February 15th, so there's no school and all offices and departments will be closed for the day. Our superintendent executive assistant, Ms. Ferguson, has arranged for on-site appointments with Sun Life Family Health Center in Eagle, so they have actually come to our site to give immunizations as Narda has set up the appointments. And we want to give a special thanks to Misty Huffman and Rachel Yant for their assistance for the first scheduled day of vaccines. And so we've been able to accommodate that, and I'm really proud about that, and all because of Mrs. Ferguson making that happen. And then Lupe Tapia and Principal Huffman are currently making arrangements to schedule the English language learners to be tested. All of the testing is being mandated by the state now. I have an email on the 1st of February that received that said that there's not going to be any exemptions or everyone's mandated to test. So that's going to be very difficult to accomplish. But they're making it's a little easier with English language learners. They're making arrangements and scheduling that, and all of and Lupe Tapia and Petra Harris are going to be administrating the test to all of our EL students. They will be bused to the library here on the TES campus, so the testing site will be set up for that, and they'll be tested in small groups. And then we'll have to make plans with the administrators for all of the other tests, science, AZ Merit, or AZM2, and such, since we are now going to be mandated to do the testing. I hoped that they would let that go, but they're not, so we'll have to make plans for that. Thank you.
Pardon me, do you have enough personnel for that?
For to,
To do the testing and stuff?
well, generally speaking, everyone is reassigned because you've got a test administrator and a proctor in each classroom. So it's going to be very, very tricky. I mean, even if we're back in the spring for hybrid, it's still going to be very difficult to manage.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's something that I know everybody's not looking forward to.
No,
Okay. But I know you guys can do it.
yeah, thanks. Thank you for your voice of confidence.
I know it can be done. Okay, Mr. Business Manager Tim. Your turn.
My turn. All right. I'll be brief tonight because really things are very similar to they were last month, so that we don't need to go into too much detail. You can see the budget balance. So the capacity of our budget right now is $291,530.80. We are still seeing, as I said before, savings in transportation with the fuel in our vehicles, the utilities in our buildings, substitute teachers, supplies, classroom supplies in the way of copy paper and copier toner, those type of things. We're seeing a lot of savings in that area. So the budget capacity will actually grow. You probably won't see that happen until near the end of the fiscal year, because as we see that, okay, we're not spending out those monies, we can take them out of the encumbered category and then free up those funds. So we are expecting to have a budget carryover of at least $290,000 going into the next fiscal year, and that will be very beneficial to us going forward. You can see by your charts down at the bottom, we are spending quite a bit less than what we did last year and what we were projecting for this year, and it's because of those savings that I mentioned earlier, and the monies that we were able to move over to the enrollment stability grant earlier. Any questions on the budget part of the presentation? Okay, we'll move on down to the grants really quick. This will be really quick also because, as I said, not a whole lot has changed. The bid packets are still being put together for those two school facilities board projects. This is my first bid packet putting together as my own, so I'm trying to be very diligent and make sure everything's right. I did send it off to another individual at the Casa Grande Elementary School to review. He just sent it back to me yesterday and said, hey, here's some changes, some things you might want to add, some things you might want to think about. And so working on putting those things in now. The one addition that you will see on here is that the school facilities board did approve a emergency authorization to repair the wall in the F building bathroom. The toilets actually were no longer able to mount to the wall because of the damage that was done to the wall. So they did approve that, and that repair is being done as we speak and should be done, I believe, in the next week or two. So that way that will be all renovated and in good shape. Other than that, everything stands pretty much as it did last month. Any questions? Okay, back to you, Mr. President.
All right, now we're moving on. Discussion item C, the COVID-19 surveys. Ms. Rogers.
We wanted some feedback, so a survey was constructed by the administrators, and we got 441 responses from families, and that was 160 from Toltec and 281 from Arizona City. And you can look through it. I am not going to read it all and insult your intelligence and take up time. But, you know, and then the other survey that was sent out was to staff, and there were 103 responses, 36 from Toltec Elementary School, 61 from Arizona City Elementary School, 2 from the district office, and 4 from transportation and maintenance. We I don't really know, you know, it was anonymous, so I don't know who. I did not participate in the survey. I don't feel like that would be appropriate for me to do so. So I didn't participate. So I'm not one of the 2 that participated. But you could see that. And then there was an opportunity for the staff to share their thoughts about students returning to school and when they thought it was safest, and any support that they currently may need. And so that's in a separate attachment. And the only reason that's only on the one survey and it's not on the families, just because if you get that much, if you get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds back, it's hard to, you know, compile it to make sense of what you received. So that's why the family was just multiple choice. If you have any questions, I can answer those. Maybe. I could try.
Well, I read through all of this. And if anybody else has any questions, then I read them. If not, okay, if not, it doesn't look like it. We move on to 4. Call to the public. We have no public. None. That means we move on to action items. Action item A, school board meetings.
This is just an official change to the policy. So basically, the only change is we will remove Wednesday and instead say that our regular board meetings will be on the 2nd Monday of each month.
And I think we all looked at our schedules and figured that was the correct time for all of this. Right, then we don't have any more discussion on that one. I guess we'll have to get a motion from someone to the policy revision.
I move to approve the VE policy revision.
All right, do I get a second?
Second.
All right, I have Mr. Kaysen and I have Mr. Dougherty, seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All against? Motion passes. We struck out B, so we will move on to C. Appropriately certified teacher contract renewals.
These are the lists that were given to me by the principals for, to offer contracts for next school year. The principals were, this doesn't mean that our teachers who are not yet appropriately certified won't be offered a contract, but we're starting here, you know, to make sure that we're getting, school districts are starting earlier and earlier to offer contracts. We want to make sure that we retain as many teachers as possible.
We don't want to be left out in the cold with nobody.
No.
They're doing that. All the schools, I believe, are doing this just so that they can get teachers from other places, because everybody is having trouble getting certified teachers.
Yes, it's very difficult, but there is a terrible shortage. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we all, if there's, anyone else have anything to say?
When do the contracts actually officially get
signed or?
There's depending on what type of contract it is depending on how much time you have. So it'll say on the contract, you have 30 days, or you have 2 weeks, or that sort of thing.
When
So
you
I-
start doing?
So if you assert, if you, so we'll bring them, there'll be more next month. Maybe everybody else next month, if we can get all the, evaluations done and everything. But, everyone here listed on those attachments will be generated and receive their contract. So, next week. So the ones you're approving will be received
Right.
immediately.
Okay, good. Any other questions? All right, it seems that, the appropriate certified teacher contract renewal, if I could get a motion.
All motion in favor.
All right, Mr. Courtwright made a motion, can I get a second?
I second.
Mr. Casey made a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against? Motion passes.
I want to correct, I said next week, I forgot that we're having a meeting on Monday, so it's to be generated this week, actually. I'm sure they might already ready to go.
All we gotta do is approve it, right?
Yeah, they have.
So they already jumped on that one. All right, well, that's excellent. Okay.
Yes.
So now, action item D, hybrid scenario start.
Okay, so just to highlight, you already approved, that we're continuously reviewing this pandemic data, and you approved on January 14th for a hybrid to start following spring break, which is Monday, March 22nd. Right now, with the number of cases and all the things that are going on countywide, the county is recommending instructional delivery model to be virtual at this time. So we'll continue to monitor this. It'll be upon us before we know, but we'll see what it looks like by next board meeting. I did check on there before, just about an hour or so ago, to see if there's been any changes, and there hasn't been any changes. Are still recommending countywide for instructional to be virtual. And just to highlight some of the surveys we had, for the family responses, we had 46% participation from ACEs, 50% from TES. And when you look at it and you say that there were more from that, but when you see how many the enrollment is, you see that actually more participated from TES than ACEs by 4%. We had 441 responses. 26.3%, they'll send their student to school in person. 21.3%, they'll send their student to school if safety protocols are in place, but of course, we already have them in place. 15.4% will send students to school if learning method is hybrid, and 37% will remain online. So we can basically, we got half of the families from Toltec and less than half from ACES, so we still don't have a clear picture, really. I mean, that's, if we had 3/4 of a response, then I think 75% of a response, then I think we'd have more of a clear picture. So I still look at this and I still don't think that we have a real idea of how many would return to school if we open up for hybrid. Because right now, if you look at it and say, well, about 37% are going to remain online, and the other percentage is going to come in, but that's only half of your families responding, or less.
How do those percentages, just an opinion, how do they match to what you guys have been seeing in actually school attendance? The kids,
In school, but
not in school attendance, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that way, but participation of students.
we've actually, when you look into this more, most of the staff feel like it's just been partially effective. don't feel like, they got it all down yet. So we continue to try to figure things out and do things better. But you do have students, what percentage, I don't have that, I don't know that for sure. But I do have my administrators talking to me about their frustration about students that don't stay in the class, or they click in to get attendance and then they click out, that aren't, taking it seriously enough, And then you've got, students that are, that the parent's not there to monitor them, and so they're taking advantage of the situation. So, to say how many are participating successfully, I don't know that. I could find out, we just need
No,
to
I'm
add
just
an
wondering how
estimate.
the percentages of the survey response equated to actual real life data. What's happening? Do you see that 37% of the parents are letting their kids come back?
Well, we've been virtual since schools were closed in March of 2020.
That's gonna be a year. I think we should really push to open.
I agree with you. I think we should push to open, and people are getting shots. I mean, if they're getting their shots, they're getting the COVID vaccine. And, I think we should push to get these kids back in school at that time. I mean, if there's this big something that comes along, we've always done this. If something comes along, we have to push it back, well, then that's what we do. But at the moment in time, for what I see, for what I feel, what I know, from being at home with a kid who, my daughter, these kids aren't self-motivated. And can you blame them? Not everybody's a self-motivated. Not everybody's a self-starter. And I'm thinking that, I really, really, really would like to get these kids back in a school setting where they can actually learn something and be, so I think we should push for that as best we can.
You mentioned motivation. Motivation at my house is intimidation.
Yeah.
Do that, we're gonna crack down,
And you are absolutely on the button. I mean, even I have to do that with my daughter, and she's pretty self-motivated to do stuff. So yeah. So I need a motion for approval that we're going to try and get back on March 22nd, unless anybody else has something else to say.
I just have another quick question. You had mentioned, Denise, that the Pinell countywide, their recommendation was, and who was it that made that recommendation?
The county health services. So, so the recommended action is to approve the hybrid scenario to begin on Monday, March 22nd, 2020, if Pinell County Health Services recommends this instructional model to be staying at that time.
Good, thank you.
I don't know, did it seem to you like the numbers improved a little
Well,
for us?
when you look at, yeah, when you look at it countywide, you can see that it went way up. I mean, from when, this first all began, it just shot way up. And then, but week 4 was on the report I sent out today, and that had jumped way down. So it was about half as much. So that's countywide. We're about in the middle of the schools in the county as far as number of cases in our district. Ranked by highest cases, well, no, we're more towards we're about a third of the way down. And then our 2 zip codes, the Eloy area, the 131 is, the Toltec area has a lot higher number than the Arizona City area itself. I mean, we've got 2813 and they've got 973. But I did see that, so in my email that I just sent out a couple hours ago, I did say that, because see, the epi curve is a week ahead of all the district data that comes, and because they said they need time to scrub the data to make sure that they get it put in the right place. So, and this is just countywide, but that dropped significantly. So I think the good news is it's going to come better numbers next week, I expect. And then hopefully it keeps the downward trend.
Headed the right direction.
Yes, but I sure hope so. Yes, I'm about sick of the sickness.
Right.
There we go.
Sick and tired. Yeah.
So we have an approval of the scenario to begin Monday, March 22nd, 2021, if the Pinellas County Health Services recommends this instructional model be saved at that time. Could I get a motion for that?
Motion
You make the motion, Mr. Duffy, and Mr. Okay. Mr. Downey made the motion, can I get a second?
I second.
All right. Jim Casey, he has a second. All approved, say aye. Aye. All against? Motion passes. What we do next is, are we good with the second Monday of the month, March 8th? Everybody in approval of that? Are we good to go?
I'm good with that.
And that also means we'll be here early, 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
Up for that also? All right. Can we-
Explain 10.
What's that?
Just because you do this, I said, oh, that's fine.
And then, so, we need a motion to adjourn.
I motion we adjourn this meeting.
Okay, well, I'll give it to Mr. Courtwright. I think he jumped just ahead of you.
And I'll second it.
Seconded. And, all in favor, say aye. All against? Motion passes. Thank you, everybody.